Hey, good afternoon. It's Dan with Dan's Everything Outdoors, and it is getting evening time. We've got about, maybe half an hour of light left, and we've got a snowstorm coming in tonight. I think 5 or 6 inches. I don't think it's a blizzard. We could call it a blizzard. There's going to be quite a bit of snow for this area. So last minute, Blade and I decided that we're going to come out here and set up to go camping. I'm going to go camping and stay overnight in the tent, which is the OneTigris Bushcraft Bungalow, and Blade is going to hammock camp with the sleeping bag that we bought last year, and we have already slept in that, I think down to what, 17 degrees on that, 17 degrees, and we stayed warm. There's some things I really liked about it, there's things I did not like about it, but Blade's going to sleep in that tonight under a tarp, and I'm going to sleep in the tent. So if we get 6 inches of snow, it'll be pretty fun. So come and join us. So I think I'm going to set up over here where I set up last time I was out camping, just run a ridge line from here to over there where I previously had made this outdoor shelf. And Blade is going to set up, I think, from this tree over to that tree. We have a little bit of a concern if we get a lot of snow. There are some branches over there. They're not directly overhead, but we don't want those branches falling from that tree down. So they're not directly overhead, so we should be safe, but we just want to make sure we are. And I think we're going to set up some type of safety line just in case. So we got a fire pit over here. We may get a fire going in there, and then we have something to do before we wind down and go to sleep, or we might have some coals left over for the morning. Probably not. So just to show you this hammock setup that Blade's going to do today, and with this sleeping bag, this is the Hyke Byke, and I'll do a review on this at a later date, but it's rated down to a pretty low temperature. There's 2 of them. One goes down to, I think, 0 degrees, and the other one's 20 degrees. So I have to see which one this is. I'll make a correction in the video if I need to. So we slipped it through right here. The whole hammock slips through, and you see Blade's pulled it through the other end, and he's going to tie it up to the other side over there. So the one thing you can see on this, on the sleeping bag, is that it cinches down right here, but it's only this long. So you can see how much of the hammock sticks out on either end, which makes it, the hammock can't expand all the way, so it's very tight to sleep in your hammock when you're in here. Shoulders were scrunched up, and then the tent and the hammock couldn't spread out all the way. So this is as long as it gets. Pulling that in, Blade. Pull as far as you can. Just you can see. See? So there's still quite a bit sticking out when you're in there. What is helpful is that Blade typically sleeps on the upper end of his hammock. So what we're going to do is tie this up here at this point where his widest part of his body is, so that when his feet are down here in the narrower part, it should give him enough room on that end. So this will be cinched down too. You can leave this open, and this allows your hammock to spread out a little bit, but then you get air drafts in there. So if you have like a jacket or something like that, you can stuff down to the end to cover up that draft. That helps as well. Or you can just cinch that up. But it does reduce the width of the hammock. And I'm setting up the first stage of this OneTigris tent. And basically I've got my ridge line with a trucker's hitch. And then I've got these prusik knots here with some toggles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to stake it down. I've got this reflective tarp underneath here. Protects the tent and reflects a little bit of heat for me. That's good. And that's what I've got right now. Obviously when I go to sleep and it starts snowing, I'm not going to be able to have it like this because it's not going to be able to handle the snow. So I'll drop one side way down and leave the other one way up if I want to get some air in there tonight. So it's supposed to get cold, or I'm gonna put both of them down and then wake up in the morning, see if I'm covered with snow. So let me get my gear inside. Let's get our gear in here. So I'll show you, I picked up this about 6 months ago when I didn't really need it. It's the Insulated, the Climate Insulated Static V Camo. So it's a thermal sleeping pad, and I picked it up quite a while ago, and I'm going to try it out today because I've never used it. So I know you don't try something out the first time in a real situation, but I'm pretty confident in this product, and I've brought an extra jacket with me if I need it for tonight. So I'm going to get this blown up in the tent, and then I'm going to set up my Helicon Bushcraft Swagman roll as a sleeping bag tonight, like I did in that rainy episode where a hurricane, but without a lot of the winds. We had some winds, but not all the winds. Back here in the woods, it was just really rainy. That's on a previous video that I'll put right up here and get this set up for you. So I've got that aired up. I know it's getting dark outside, and I'm going to use this Arcturus reflective blanket slash tarp to put under and around this. So I'm going to lay this out. So you can see how I got this laid out now with this tarp around the whole thing, underneath it and on top of it. Now I'm going to put the Swagman roll in there as a sleeping bag. I'm still going to do a review on this. I just want to test it in a lot of different situations before I talk about it. But I really like this. So I'm just going to lay this right in here like this. I'm going to pull this over the top, and I'm going to use a little bit of rope to tie these ends down. I do realize that'll hold in a little bit of moisture, but I'm not so much concerned about it tonight. It's not going to get like really cold. I think it's probably going to be in the 20s. I'll be fine. All right, so I know it's getting pretty dark now, so we're going to show you the stuff in the morning, what we did. See what Blade's got going on here. Getting ready to climb in for the night. Hope you stay warm. So this is going to provide a nice underquilt for him underneath here. And then he'll zip that up over his body and put this up over his head if he wants. Get a shot of you when you get in. And tuck this in a little bit more too, so you don't snow blows in, you won't get on your bag. Get a shot of Blade all warm in there. So here's what I was mentioning. You see his body's in here, but all this is exposed. How do your feet feel? Are they squashed up?
No.
No, it's good. Your shoulders have enough room on that end?
Yeah.
That's good. And the zip's all the way down to here. Let's zip. Okay, looks good. We're covered up in here. Alright, let me see what I got here. So I'm going to put this whole top down and the screen down and go to sleep in it. So I basically have 3 layers. Sleeping bag, which is the Swagman rolls in here, covered up by the rain poncho. It's on top of this thermal rest pad, which is on top of this reflective tarp, which is over the top. We got ourselves a fire going, and it's about time for bed. Put my bottle of water there by the fire, warm it up, and I'm going to slip a sock over that. And then this bottle of water will keep me nice and warm for most of the night, and then I can drink it in the morning. It'll also make it easier to warm up if I'm going to drink something warm in the morning. Let's see how Blade's doing. Still awake, huh? You warm?
Yeah.
Very warm?
Yeah.
Good. That thing is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, let's check out your down underneath you. Well, yeah, it's a little bit. You got got some air underneath it. That's one thing nice about having a little bit loose on you. And I'm going to be sleeping right here. Once I put this top down, because that's not going to hold much snow. I might sleep with one side open. But then it means I have to get up in the middle of the night to close it probably. It's getting hot. It's not boiling, but I don't want it to boil. I just want it to be hot. You know, I'm going to stick it in a sock so it doesn't melt anything. It's really warm to sleep with. And then over here, just stacked up a bunch of wood for the morning underneath this tarp. So get a fire going if there's a lot of snow. If we want to get a fire going, drink something warm. No snow yet. So I'm not sure. They say it's going to start snowing around 2 o'clock in the morning. So we'll see how much snow there is when we wake up. And I'm just going to get this warmed up a little bit more and I'm going to go to bed. I think sometime this winter or this spring when I get out here, I'm going to make a bushcraft chair to sit in when I come out here. Whew, I'm warm. It's on fire. I got an old sock, cotton sock. I'm gonna slide this hot. Ooh, very hot. Oh yeah, that's toasty warm. Throw that in my sleeping bag. I'm gonna close up this tent, except for maybe this side, I don't know, and go to sleep. Alright, before I go to bed, I want to show you guys something. I do have a couple trees that are way up there. You can't really see them, but I don't think I'm in the fall path, but I just want to make sure I've hung a bunch of these lines up. I'll show you in the morning. Up over here, just in case a small limb or something does fall down, it'll bounce off and not land on my tent and wake me up. Much less hurt me. Alright, let's get climbed into this bed. Go to sleep. I think I am going to put the screen down. That'll give me a little extra warmth and I can still look out and watch it snow. This thinking bag now is really tight. Alright. Pull it on like a pair of pants or something. And it's really tight up to here. Elbows in, and then it's good night for me. Okay, good night. I'll hopefully see you in the morning and not in the middle of the night. Good morning. We got a lot of snow last night. You see, I kind of climbed out of my bed here and got somewhat dressed. I'll talk about that in a minute, and then I'm climbing out of here. The tent got a lot smaller. You can see lots of snow off the side here. And the good thing about this plastic, it was protecting kind of the corner draft there. And I still had enough airflow that wasn't a lot of condensation here. But let's go check out inside. Let me change the mode on this camera. Alright, that's better. Oh my goodness. We've got quite a bit of snow. Let's zip this up. So tent kind of got covered up a little bit. Reduced size. But it held up good. There's what I pull. I ended up pulling down the side last night. I'll talk about that in a little bit. My fire pit. So, mission accomplished. It snowed. That's what we were hoping for, was to put the tent out in the snow. And also, we'll take a look at this hammock, Hyke Byke sleeping bag. See what's going on with Blade here. Where I put this wood in here last night. Wood's nice and dry, it looks like. There we go. How was it last night?
Pretty good.
Did you stay warm?
Stayed warm the whole time. Since I had all my jackets on, and since that thing kind of pinched the hammock, so it was a little bit tight in there.
A lot less room in there.
Yeah. But stayed pretty warm.
You stayed warm. Was you comfortable?
Like, if I could get in the right position, then it was comfortable.
I know what Blade means by that, because when I slept in that, if he's sleeping higher in a hammock than I slept, so he had more room for his shoulders. When I slept in it, it pinched my body. It was really restrictive. Unless I was really tired, it was going to be hard to fall asleep and sleep comfortably. The last time I slept in that, it got really cold. It got down to 17 degrees. And I stayed warm. I was wearing a fleece jacket and pants. Now, Blade, you were wearing a jacket, you said?
Yeah.
And you were wearing any long underwear or pants and everything? Yeah. What, long underwear and pants? Yeah. Okay, so Blade was also wearing some other gear inside this sleeping bag. But if you look in here, it did run out of some space when that snow closed in on him. But this is what we're talking about. If you can see, he pinched it off up here, which is the normal point where the hammock comes together. So he had more room for his shoulders, and then it was going to become really narrow down on this end where he had this tied up. It looks like it split out. Are your feet getting cold at all?
No.
Okay, because it looks like it opened up a little bit there.
Wool socks on.
Oh, wool socks? Okay. Yeah. So, but that worked out okay. It still collapsed in. Yeah. You know, with we could have tied it tighter maybe, but
still dry.
It's still dry, yeah. And our wood's safe. Now, my experience is a little bit different with this tent, so I'm going to get it cleaned up a little bit and set up so that we can talk about how I slept. All right, I'm going to show you something really dumb that Dan's Everything Outdoors just did. Do not do this with this tent. I was pulling up this corner here to knock the snow off, and all the snow slid off, and look where it went. Luckily, it's not all in my tent, but it kind of just dropped in my vestibule, so I'm gonna get some gloves on and dig that out. So you're gonna have to give me a few minutes to clean this up. Alright, that's good enough. Find some gloves. And I'll dig that out. All right, so let me show you where I did well last night and where I had some fails. The tent worked really well, other than it does still collapse under the weight of the snow. That's a given. And it was tied pretty tight. So I didn't want to tie it any tighter than that because I'm afraid something might rip. So the snow load did kind of cave in a little bit, and I lost airflow on the backside, but it didn't really matter because most of the night I had the canopy at an angle, and so this was open, but it didn't start snowing, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. It still hadn't snowed, and I went ahead and zipped it up on both sides down. It still didn't create a lot of condensation inside, but I also wasn't feeling the draft from this vent on the backside, which is now collapsed by snow anyways, because I had this plastic that was over it, which kind of did help in a way. But let me tell you what didn't work. This is what's called a Ranger roll, and I did it a different way than I've done it in the past. This one I basically wrapped everything with this reflective tarp on the bottom and the top to reflect some heat up towards my body and reflect heat down. I think the better way, now that I do it again, and I didn't have grommets in this, would be to have this as the inner layer and have my poncho as the very outer layer, because it's got the snaps on it. But I am going to put some additional grommets on this so I can tie it up. I really can only tie it down at the foot right here. And so it basically was just off me all night long. It kind of just fell to the side. So I lost a lot of heat that way. But then again, I didn't have to worry so much about sweat or condensation inside of it. Then I had this layer, which was my poncho. And it worked really well. It did unsnap at one point tonight because it gets pretty tight in there. And it had unsnapped, I had to re-snap it. And then I had this layer right here, this is the poncho liner. All right. And the poncho liner, that's not much material to stay warm in when you're out when it drops into low 20s. But I was on this thermal pad. It wasn't quite as warm as I thought it was going to be. I did feel the cold coming up from it. And I'll say that, what I do with it, still got a little bit of my body heat in it. This is the stainless steel canteen that I heated up, not to a boil, but very hot last night. And that, I would say, I had down my feet, but my feet were already warm. But I brought it up to my chest right here to keep my main body warm, because I was getting cold in here. I have long underwear on. I didn't have these pants on, but I did have my thermal underwear, and I did have a thermal shirt, and I did have this jacket on. So if it wasn't for that, I would have been absolutely freezing because it did get cold. The other thing I didn't like again was even though I have had a good experience with this pillow, I just couldn't get the pillow comfortable with me. I had to deflate air out of it. It kept sliding. Finally, the best solution was I wrapped it in my jacket, which I could put on if I wanted to stay warm as well. But I wrapped it in the jacket and then stuck these pants that I had taken off underneath it, and it got it to the right level. So I think that this pillow, unless I'm going ultralight, I'm going to get a different pillow. This is great for hammock. I'm not comfortable on the ground with it. I just can't get the right head height. And it was very uncomfortable. It took me a long time to fall asleep. I think a better option is just maybe to have one of my bags, like this, maybe the tent bag, and to stuff all this in here. I think that's going to be a more comfortable option. I really do. Especially in the wintertime when you have the extra jacket that you take off and you put on here. I'll do a separate video on that showing how I'm going to set up that Ranger roll. But I don't think this is good for temperatures and get in the low 20s. I really don't. I think this is okay when you get down to 45, 50 degrees. This works great. But for what I was doing last night, it's not warm enough. So I just want to go through that real quick and see how the tent held up really well. And except for when I pulled that flap off, all the snow pretty much dumped right into here. But it worked out well. So I'm going to get a fire started now. All right, let me show you what I was talking about last night. Is we were worried about if too much snow gets on a branch, maybe a branch could fall. There wasn't much chance of that, but there's always a chance of that if you're under an older tree. And some of the branches could fall off under the snow. We had set up right here, you'll see all these lines crisscrossed with some rope I brought out here. And so that way, if something were to fall, it's either going to deflect it and bounce away, or it'll just land on top of it. And all that is a little additional protection from anything that could fall from right up there. So then Blade also set one up for his. He put some cross lines with some rope he had, just in case. It looks like we're right under that tree, but we're not quite. It is an older tree. It's a long ways for stuff to fall. But just something to always think about when you're out in the woods versus like a clear field. is you want to make sure there's no widowmakers, no dead trees, no dead branches that are looking like they're going to fall, no branches that have already slightly fallen. And if you have additional rope, it's always nice to set up and some additional protection for your tent. How your hands doing?
Good.
Cold?
They're warmer with these gloves on.
Your hands got pretty cold yesterday when you were setting things up out here.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with tying ropes, so you couldn't have big gloves on. Especially that little bank line that you used. This small bank line right here, sometimes I use these for tarps. It makes it a lot lighter of a load to carry out, but it's harder to tie small knots with when your hands are cold. Whereas here, we ended up using paracord. We didn't have enough of it available. It's a little easier to tie a knot with paracord. If you guys don't know what this knot is, most of you probably do. Get close to this blade. I want to tie tight line hitch, right? See how it's, I'm just going to pull it tight. I've got a lot of extra cordage here, so I'm just going to tie it about right here. I'm going to hold that across, loop it once, pull it all through, loop it twice, pull it all through, and I'm just going to come around on the other side here, if you can see that, leaving this loop on the underside. I'm going to pull this part through there. And I'm not going to leave a bite. I'm just going to actually pull it all the way through. I'm going to dress that up nice and tight because it has to be tight. And then you can set this loose, or you can pull it up, and it's tight. So I use it in a lot of situations that don't have to be extremely tight. For that, I would use a trucker's hitch. A little too much line here because we use this for, typically it's a lot higher. Tarp's a lot higher, but blade set it low to kind of trap some of the heat in where he's sleeping and to keep the snow from coming in from the sides. So you did a pretty good job setting this up. You can see how much sag there is just on the stretch. That paracord always has stretch, so you always leaving yourself, realize you got to tighten things up later. And you use a trucker's hitch for this, right?
Yeah.
So here's this trucker's hitch. We use a trucker's hitch, and because it's pulling so hard, we put a double bite in here. That way, once we pull this toggle out and we just pull this loose, it'll all fall apart, and we don't have to worry about trying to pull something that's been really tight. Try to get the knot back out, which sometimes can be really tough. I have to check the weather, what's going to be snowing like today. I think what we're going to do is, I think the plan is we're probably going to get a fire going, kick around and relax a little of the snow because it's nice out here, it's quiet. And then we're going to hike out. And I think I'm going to go test out my new Subaru I got in the snow. So it's back at home. I'll take that out and we'll see how it does in thick snow. So hopefully I'll get a lot more snow today and we can plow through some of that going up the half-mile driveway, which is a hill and is a really good test to see how well that vehicle is going to handle deeper snow in the wintertime. Well, that should get us warmed up in about a couple minutes. The size of that, I'm all stacked up in there. Once that gets warm, it's already warm. Oh, it feels good. You know, water warm back up here. This is Dan with Dan's Everything Outdoors. Thank you for joining us on this outdoor adventure in the snow, being able to test out the OneTigris tent in a snowstorm, as well as we got to also took a look at the Ranger sleeping system, which the pros and cons of using that and how I can improve that in the future. And we also got to look at the Free Soldier tarp and the Hyke Byke sleeping bag for using on a hammock. So hope you enjoyed it. Till the next time, go out and enjoy everything outdoors. Thanks again. Bye.